Hello everyone, and welcome back to Scum Villain Self-Saving System. This setup's a little different. Mostly I just have adjusted things you can't see because they're off camera. Moved the camera, moved the mic, changed the background, gave myself a little more space, and probably gonna make a couple more changes in a couple days, but we'll get there when we get there. Welcome Phil, Daniel, Don, Lobsol, thanks for joining us. We are on Chapter 17 of Scum Villain's Self-Saving System, which if you've missed some of it or not kept up with what this story is, it's the story of a young man who dies and then wakes up in the body of a bad guy in a book he'd just read. It was a horrible book. He's so mad. But he is trying his best to keep from suffering the same horrible end that the character did in the book. And so he's trying to survive the story of this fictional world and befriend the main character, who he does not realize is falling in love with him. Because he's a dummy. Hey Jeff, welcome. So last time he woke up and, well, he didn't wake up. He was in a dream, and he awoke in the dream to realize he was in the dream realm, and a specific storyline was starting in which the main character is seeing his history in the dream realm. Because of a demon that's trapped him inside of it. So we are now in part 2 of the Dream Realm section. Chapter 17, Wrong Script, Part 2. Uh-oh. Hello. Are you trying to... He's climbing over the microphone. Here, say hi. Say hi, Bob. You ready for reading? Okay, you go back there. Hey, and Callie May. However, the terrifying thing about Meng Mo was that he specialized in summoning the human heart's deepest terror, rage, misery, to destroy people's psychological defenses. If this was Luo Binghe after activating his God Mode cheats, 10,000 Meng Mos together would only amount to parlor tricks in his eyes. But the Luo Binghe now, whose demonic blood had yet to awaken... Bobby! Sorry, he just tripped on the microphone. Was already trapped inside the dream realm and his dark memories. All he could see was his powerlessness. Suddenly, the alley scene they were... that's missing a word, it seems like. Suddenly, the alley scene they were watching became distorted, transforming into another scene. Shen Qingqiu thought, not good. A second killing blow without time to prepare? This was a broken down little hut. The hut only had one bed, a crooked little table with a dimly lit oil lamp on top, and a small wooden bench. On the bed lay a haggard old woman. With great effort she tried to prop herself up, but from beginning to end she was incapable of it. A tender-faced Luo Binghe, only a little over 10 years old, supported the woman. Around his neck still hung that jade accessory. Okay, wait. There was static with the mic before, but Bob fixed it. Oh, that's funny. I thought we were past that problem when I replaced the cord, but, well, I was thinking about getting a microphone on Black Friday anyway, so... let's see here. Mother, why are you getting up again? Didn't we say it's fine to rest? The woman coughed and said, lying down doesn't help with anything. Might as well get up and wash the clothes. Little Luo Binghe said, I already finished washing. Mother, lie down and wait for me to finish simmering your medicine. You can work after you take it and get better. The woman's face was ashen, her sickness long beyond cure, with little time left to live. She smiled while patting Luo Binghe's head. Binghe is so sweet. Little Luo Binghe lifted his face, forcing himself to smile, and said, What does Mother want to eat? The woman said, These days I have less and less appetite. She paused, then hesitantly said, Last time the white kongi our house's young master threw out. I do wish for a bit of a taste. I wonder if the kitchens have any left. Little Luo Binghe vigorously nodded and said, I'll go ask for Mother. The woman warned over and over, Just asking is enough. If there's none left, then make something light and soup-like. As long as it fills the stomach, it's fine. Absolutely do not request the chef for any. Luo Binghe promised profusely, and then ran out with a da-da-da like the wind. Don't know what that means, and there's no footnote. I guess he ran fast. After lying for a while, the woman felt beneath her pillow for a needle and thread and started doing needlework. The lamplight in the hut became dimmer and dimmer. While Luo Binghe's mind was unclear, he reached out, trying to grasp something. Shen Qingqiu grabbed his hand and forcefully said, "Luo Binghe, look carefully. This isn't your mother, and you are no longer the helpless child who can only take humiliation." One of the things that made the nightmare so lethal was that the more agitated the trapped person became, the more damage it would do to their mind. The way Luo Binghe was right now, extremely unstable, was very harmful to the spirit. Another thing was that you needed to remember you absolutely should not attack the people who appear in your dream realm. Every single person was formed from the dream realm's host's own mind and consciousness. As soon as you attacked them, it would be also like attacking your own brain. There were many people who, not knowing this, or unable to control their own emotions, would attack the people in the dream realm who'd hurt them before and enter a coma from then on. If Luo Binghe fell into a coma, of course, Shen Qingqiu would also be trapped in his dream realm with him. And Kalime says it's probably a sound effect. Yeah, it's probably like emphasizing how fast he ran away, I'm guessing. Footsteps maybe. Hello, Bob. Can I move this? The scenery around them shifted erratically. This nightmare was a collection of misfortunes and traumas from his short decade-plus years of life. Suddenly it transformed into little Luo Binghe pleading with the chef to grant his adopted mother a bowl of congee, then being mocked and ridiculed by the manor's young master. Suddenly it transformed into the time right after he'd entered Qingjing Peak, when he was subjected to his numerous Shishong's exclusion and spite, his frail form straining as he swung a rusty axe, carrying pails of water up the long stairs, steps getting slower and slower, his only treasured jade pendant snatched away, never to be found. The disordered scenes piled up as they came, one after another without pause. The present Luo Binghe, other than these scattered images and memories, could neither see nor hear anything. Within his head there was only an explosion of despair, suffering, helplessness, and fury from those times, churning incessantly within his chest and mind. The only way to dispel the nightmare was to undo the complexes in one's heart, causing the nightmare to collapse on itself. But Luo Binghe's fists were tightly clenched. Cracking noises came from his fingers, his breathing increasing unsteadily, his eyes turning an unnatural red, a faint discernible current of spiritual power coursing around him, as if his desire to attack was constantly increasing. Shen Qingqiu thought, "Standing near him is very dangerous." Shen Qingqiu said harshly, "Do not attack. Even if you hit them, the one injured will be you." But Luo Binghe could no longer hear his words. He lifted his right arm, and a powerful spiritual blast flew forth from his palm to directly remove the people laughing freely within the illusion. Shen Qingqiu gave a cry within his heart. No matter how painful, his body still reacted and rushed over, putting himself before the illusions, blocking the spiritual blast head-on. It just happened to hit his lower abdomen. In that instant, Shen Qingqiu felt like he'd been stomped on by an elephant, his vision going dark. If this weren't the dream realm, he'd be vomiting an unceasing fountain of blood. As expected of the protagonist. Shen Qingqiu's face was covered with tears. Luo Binghe was plainly only a young disciple. How could he release such a powerful spiritual blast? With this attack of Luo Binghe's, the illusion around them was broken, the people and objects all shattering like glass into thousands of shards. The illusory landscape around them transformed into a remote forested wilderness. The sky was a dark blue. The lone, cold, golden moon hung high above their heads. Luo Binghe's mind immediately cleared. He first stared blankly and speechlessly at the half-kneeling Shen Qingqiu, who was unable to stand, then lowered his head to look at his own palm, where a shred of remaining spiritual power was still flowing through his fingertips. Vaguely remembering what he'd just done, his face immediately turned stark white. Luo Binghe threw himself to Shen Qingqiu's side, supporting him, both worried and regretful. "Shizun, why didn't you hit back?" With Shen Qingqiu's level of spiritual power, he was wholly capable of returning the spiritual blast, colliding both of their power together, directly pitting them against each other with the stronger one winning. Not only could he dissolve Luo Binghe's attack, he could have deflected it back at him. Expressing his innermost feelings, Shen Qingqiu said a single, "Foolish child," he spoke weakly. "The entire point was so you wouldn't get injured. If I deflected it back injuring you, what meaning would there be?" Hearing that frail voice, Luo Binghe wanted to strike his own heart and kill himself. But now the one injured is Shizun. It hadn't been long since the incident with the 3 matches against the Demon Realm, and Shizun was already injured for his sake again, this time by his own hand. Shen Qingqiu saw the self-blame and misery on his child's face was about to overflow, and unable to stand it, said consolingly, "Can your cultivation compare with mine? Even if this master took several more blows, it wouldn't matter." Luo Binghe would rather Shen Qingqiu be like in the past, vent his anger by viciously beating and cursing him. Even if he was utterly ignored, scorned, and ridiculed, it would still ease his heart. Yet on the contrary, Shen Qingqiu's tone and words were so gentle, and he was so dumb and speechless, completely at a loss for what to do. After a long moment, he said in a low voice, "It's all my fault." The early Luo Binghe indeed walked the path of a brainless, mowy white lotus. Alright, that is a term meaning... it's an anime character that's shallow and cute and not very deep. So essentially, in the first half of the story, the character is saying he was kind of a brainless, innocent character, and then the plot makes him lose that innocence and he darkens. Shen Qingqiu thought he'd once again fallen into a people-pleaser's conflict and self-reflection, and explained patiently, "It has nothing to do with you. The ways of demons are extremely unpredictable and impossible to guard yourself against. If you don't want to encounter something similar in the future, you should become stronger." These words of his were spoken purely out of his personal feelings. This was a world of immortals and monsters where the strong ate the weak. Becoming stronger was the only way to guarantee you wouldn't become cannon fodder, pushed around by the world. Luo Binghe's thoughts shifted, and without speaking, suddenly raised his head, fixing his gaze steadily on Shen Qingqiu. Shen Qingqiu's heart gave a thump. Those obsidian eyes of Luo Binghe's flashed with a light more dazzling than the reflection of the moon and stars. This expression in his eyes, this kind of protagonist's expression, full of resolute trust and blazing fighting spirit. Could it be I've already become the protagonist's guiding star on his life path going forward? Luo Binghe fell into a proper kneeling position by Shen Qingqiu's side and said in a clear, strong voice, "I understand." "Wait, what did you understand this time? Can you not only say half of your words each time? Tell me the rest!" He didn't notice that within this sentence of Luo Binghe's, he didn't use "this disciple" to address himself. Luo Binghe tightly clenched his fist, saying word by word, "This kind of thing. I definitely won't let it happen a second time." To let Shizun protect his weak self, to let Shizun be injured because of it, this kind of thing absolutely cannot happen again. Shen Qingqiu gave an, "Oh, what's going on?" He suddenly had "the protagonist is shielding me, I feel so safe" kind of feeling. What exactly is going on? Safe your ass. This person's going to carve you into a human stick in the future. Wake up a little. Shen Qingqiu was filled with a plethora of complex emotions. Fuck. Originally, the conviction of becoming stronger to protect my important people should have been aroused by the protagonist seeing the female lead's frail and lovely, delicately panting form after she'd sustained an injury from helping him. This was the system laying all labor and capital associated with the female lead's role on him? Oh, our sweet child still doesn't realize Luo Binghe is falling in love with him. He's so close. So close. Doesn't quite see it. Doesn't quite get it. Chapter 18. Portable Grandfather. To hand out the wrong script, even here. Also, if you're giving me extra parts, offer me complimentary meals. taking on a main character's long and tedious lines while being paid on an extra's thin and meager wages. This is exploitation of labor. Out of selfishness, Shen Qingqiu managed to lift a hand and pat Luo Binghe on the head. Luo Binghe's originally stubborn gaze froze, as if a handful of clear spring water had doused the flickering anger. Shen Qingqiu thought for a moment and said, "Actually, you need not worry too much. If you cannot become strong, I will stay by your side and protect you." Instead of letting Luo Binghe become that pitch-black basket case of a young man who'd made destroying the world his mission, it'd be better if he could stay this delicate little white lotus forever. Shen Qingqiu absolutely would not mind keeping this kind of him by his side and take care of him for a lifetime. How do you not see it? His thoughts were this simple, but to the other person's ears, it didn't sound that way. Luo Binghe was already completely dumbfounded. No one had ever made such a straightforward and impassioned promise to him. Even though the world was large, how many people could say, "You need not become strong. I'm here. Of course I won't let others harm you." And they weren't empty words. If Shizun said he could do it, he could. He'd already proven many times with his actions that he would rather sustain grievous injury than let Luo Binghe suffer a tiny bit of harm. Still, the sensation of coddling within these words was too much. After the first surge of warmth slowly subsided, a burning heat instantly crawled up Luo Binghe's face. Shen Qingqiu coughed for a while, miserably discovering that coughing up blood within the dream realm was possible, then pinched Luo Binghe's arm. "All right. First, help me up." Luo Binghe felt that where his wrist had been pinched neither hurt nor itched, and instead tingled. Immediately he realized his thoughts were overstepping and scolded himself a little. Thinking such nonsense at a time like this, how disrespectful to Shizun. He hurriedly organized his thoughts and did as he was told. Suddenly a voice sounded out of nowhere. That hoarse, aged voice let out a sound and said, "Boy, to actually break through this elder's barrier, you're quite something." That voice came with an echo hovering all around the two. It was impossible to determine which direction it came from. The boss of this level had finally appeared. Luo Binghe was supporting Shen Qingqiu and did not rise to his feet, his gaze wary. Meng Mo had appeared while Shen Qingqiu was injured. It could be said things were not looking good. He made the resolution that if Meng Mo tried to attack, even with his meager strength, he would still give his all to impede him and earn Shen Qingqiu a chance of survival. The instant after he made his decision, the voice spoke again. "Come over here and let this elder see. What kind of young hero is capable of such a thing?" Luo Binghe looked at Shen Qingqiu. The latter's entire mind was full of, "I finished my performance of friendliness, can finally leave work now," and so was extremely cheerful. He even felt like teasing him. "The senior's asking the young hero, why don't you reply?" Luo Binghe's face reddened. He turned and spoke with a clear voice. You flatter me. Breaking through the barrier was due to my Shizun strength alone." The voice humphed as if full of disdain. Shen Qingqiu knew why he'd humphed. Though he had blocked an attack for Luo Binghe, this was Luo Binghe's dream realm, and so required Luo Binghe to wrest back control over his own consciousness. Only then was the nightmare broken, but Shen Qingqiu couldn't be bothered to explain. The voice spoke. "This elder wants you to come over here, boy, but I don't want this ordinary cultivator from Kangchong Mountain to also hear our conversation, so I'll let him sleep first." As expected, the circumstances were exactly the same as when Ning Ying Ying was here in the original story. Everyone else from Luo Binghe would be waved off stage by Meng Mo. A headache came over Shen Qingqiu and he collapsed heavily. Alarmed, Luo Binghe gathered him in his arms and called, "Shizun! Shizun!" Meng Mo said, "No need to worry. This elder only sent him into a dream within a dream. He's just sleeping more deeply. You, get over here." This time it was possible to hear the voice was coming from a pitch-black cave off to the west. Luo Binghe could not wake Shen Qingqiu. He carefully laid him on the ground, then turned and spoke towards where the voice was coming from. "My Shizun acknowledged you as a senior, so I must treat you with the same courtesy. I hope you also won't cause Shizun trouble." "Aw, thank you, Daniel. Thanks for the support. I'm glad you're enjoying the story. I quite enjoyed this one." Meng Mo chuckled and said, Boy, I saw your memories. This Shizun of yours does not treat you well. Why not just let me get rid of him? I'd be doing you a favor. The memories he'd looked at were mostly those of the original Shen Qingqiu and Luo Binghe's interactions. Those memories were indeed the greatest in number, truly. Luo Binghe shook his head. Shizun is not like you said, Senior. In addition, no matter what, Shizun is Shizun. He can treat me however, but as his disciple, I cannot disrespect him. Meng Mo humphed. Small-minded. The human realm's righteous path is full of this type of hypocritical morality. So what if he's your honored master or whatever? If someone mistreats or harms me, they should be killed. He knew your cultivation was not sufficient to face Tianshu, yet he still sent you out there for the match. How can you not tell the kind of intentions he had? Luo Binghe said, At the time, even I didn't believe I could win, but Shizun believed in me. Not only did he give me the opportunity, he even encouraged me during the match. And in the end, I truly did win. In a last sentence, he said, silently, only to himself, To save me, Shizun blocked 2 attacks for me. His goodness towards me is genuine. Meng Mo had only randomly skimmed some fragments. He did not understand Shen Qingqiu's behavior, nor did he want to try unraveling this issue, though he was quite pleased with Luo Binghe's attitude. You, boy, are a person who values loyalty and bonds, Luo Binghe said, not even 1,000th of how Shizun is towards me. If Meng Mo had a mouth, its corners would be twitching. He decided to change the topic. After murmuring for a moment, Meng Mo said, This elder senses that within your body there's something being repressed, even though I cannot exactly tell what it is. It must be incredibly remarkable. Luo Binghe was a little shocked. What sort of thing is it that even you cannot tell? Meng Mo chuckled and said, My people produce masters in droves. It's not impossible that a demon more illustrious than this elder has sealed something in your body. In any case, Meng Mo was not so eager to throw away his several 100-years-old face that he'd come and trick an impoverished teenager who had nothing. Luo Binghe said, still in disbelief, Senior, the thing in my body is related to demons? Meng Mo sneered. What? Are you displeased? Eager to cut any connections with the demon race? Luo Binghe's state of shock did not last for too long. His thoughts whirred rapidly and he declared, The demon realm does many evils of all kinds and has injured my Shizun multiple times. Naturally, I cannot associate with them. Meng Mo became depressed. Boy, can you go 3 sentences without mentioning that Shizun of yours? Let this elder guess. The next thing you want to ask is, may I ask this senior, is there a method to remove it from my body? Luo Binghe gave a wry smile and said, Even if I ask, would this senior tell me? Meng Mo laughed boisterously. It's not that I don't want to tell you, but there's truly nothing this elder can do. I can't even see it clearly. How can I talk about removing it? If not for the fact that I couldn't make sense of you, boy, I'd have already killed you both. Why would I care to drag it out? You think I'm that idle? Luo Binghe did not speak. He thought, You don't even have a body anymore. You're just a shade, parasiting on other dream realms. If you're not idle, who is? Meng Mo was unaware that Luo Binghe was ridiculing him and continued, Removing it is impossible for me, but suppressing it is not out of the question. Luo Binghe asked tentatively, Senior, are you willing to tell me how? Meng Mo said leadingly, Not only can this senior teach you how to suppress it, he can teach you much more. The implication was extremely blatant, and Luo Binghe understood. His heart sank. You want me to cultivate the demonic path? Hearing his tone turn cold, Meng Mo's temper flared. What's wrong with cultivating the demonic path? If you cultivate the demonic path, the thing in your body will give you great benefits. You could leap 1,000 miles in a day. You could stand above thousands. These are not empty words. Someday, the entirety of the 3 realms, the heavens and earth within, could be overturned and swept away before your power, and it would all be simple. Hearing the last part, Luo Binghe's heart jolted. 1,000 miles in a day? Stand above thousands? The entirety of the 3 realms swept away before him? That is to say, he'd become strong, the strongest. He quickly rejected the thought. Shen Qingqiu hated the ways of demons the most. If he could not resist Meng Mo's temptation and became a demonic cultivator, how could he face him? Whether Shen Qingqiu would thunder in anger or sink into depression, he definitely didn't want to see it. No, Luo Binghe resolutely refused. Meng Mo sneered. If you refuse to learn from me, you won't be able to suppress the demonic energy in your body. It's hidden deeply now, and fine because it can't be seen. But this elder can sense the seal in your body is weakening. One day in the future, when it breaks through, that good Shifu of yours who abhors evil and makes eliminating demons and upholding justice his mission, how will he treat you? With Luo Binghe's greatest worry pointed out, he clenched his teeth and said, "This junior is but an ordinary cultivator, for whom achieving even foundation establishment is full of perils and hardships. Why do you insist I cultivate the demonic path?" This question was really too high level. Other than an author who knew why all the great geniuses and masters were always crying and pleading for the protagonist to be their apprentice, /disciple, /son-in-law. No, in fact, even most authors probably didn't know the answer to this eternal riddle. Boy, you should appreciate others' kindness. This elder can see you're extraordinary. Would you rather all my knowledge vanish like smoke along with my physical body? How many people would beg for it without avail? Luo Binghe showed nothing on his face. Seeing him refuse to reply, Meng Mo suddenly felt a rush of ominous premonition. Sure enough, the next time Luo Binghe opened his mouth, he did so with a pure and harmless smile. Slowly and composedly, he said, "Senior is so eager to teach me. Surely it isn't only because he's unwilling for his knowledge to vanish without a successor, right?" Meng Mo cried to himself, "Uh-oh, not good." That's the end of that chapter. We'll do another. These have been pretty short chapters, so we might be able to do 4. Chapter 9. I forgot to tell her I was streaming. Hey, I'm streaming. What's up? Okay, thanks. Bye. I always forget to text her, and then she ends up calling me. I need to put a friggin' reminder on my phone. Chapter 19. Earnest Instruction. Luo Binghe said, "When living as a parasite off of others' dream realms, if one often changes hosts, their spirit will weaken and suffer damage during the transfers. But if they live long-term within a set host's body, they can preserve and nurture it instead, stabilizing their spirit." He paused, then said, "Senior Meng Mo, could it be you've already approached your limit, and that's why you're picking me to be the host you'll raise?" Having been seen through by him, Meng Mo neither denied it nor became angry, and instead grandly admitted, "That's right. Who'd have thought, boy, you were actually so well-learned and knowledgeable to even know something like this?" Meng Mo saw his expression was unperturbed, and unable to mull out what the boy was thinking, continued, "However, don't assume this elder absolutely must have you as a host. Greatly gifted demons number in the millions. Which one wouldn't kneel and ask for this special honor? Even you should consider carefully whether you can afford to miss this opportunity." In actuality, over these years, his spirit had steadily degenerated. Originally residing within a demonic device, he'd been happily living there. With 180 years of meditation, he would have been brimming with energy again, but it just had to happen that Xia Hualing, unaware of this and in a series of freak coincidences, used the device as a weapon and unloaded it on Luo Binghe, and Meng Mo no longer had the strength to search for another host. But on the road to his doom, he'd unexpectedly discovered that buried within the body and consciousness of the boy he newly resided in, a faintly discernible and incredible power lay concealed, and he became ecstatic. How could he let this go? He'd already resolved that no matter how sternly Luo Binghe refused, he'd wheedle and pester, make threats and promises to make his body and consciousness an even more suitable residence. Meng Mo said, "This elder will give you time, so think through it carefully. Otherwise, I'll trap you and your Shizun's consciousness within the dream realm forever. This elder's capable of that much." Luo Binghe's head snapped up, and in an instant, at the cold light that flashed through the youth's eyes, Meng Mo froze, intimidated. Luo Binghe's gentle and humble demeanor from before was completely gone, his voice ice cold. Right now, you are discussing terms with me and are free to say anything, but if you harm Shizun, everything is void. Meng Mo was frozen for a long time before finally returning to himself, stunned that he'd actually been terrorized by the power of an insignificant, ordinary human realm cultivator's presence. Of course, he did not know that this sort of presence, in the later generations, was called the protagonist's exclusive aura of awesomeness. The cave suddenly exploded with a burst of loud laughter. Boy, you really have quite a temper. After that ancient voice finished saying those words, Luo Binghe immediately felt his limbs become heavy, the scenery around him spinning before he was plunged into darkness. In a flash and with a start, Luo Binghe woke inside the woodshed, his vest completely drenched. At the same time, Shen Qingqiu also sprang up on the bed like a corpse coming alive after death. Head and vision spinning and dizzy, he gasped for breath for a while, and only then did he finally relax. Horrible, horrible, horrible! Horrible enough to kill! How come? How come in the original work, Ning Yang Yang was dragged into the dream within a dream by Meng Mo? How come the dream weaved for her was a comforting childhood memory, where her parents let her pick flowers and ride horses? How come on his turn he was first surrounded by fist-sized man-eating wasps, then dashing madly through the narrow passages of a tomb while tightly pursued by a giant ball of fire? The most terrifying thing was that the final part of the dream within a dream, Meng Mo had weaved what he feared the most. Within the dark and damp dungeon, he was suspended in midair by a ring around his waist, and he could not feel his limbs. When he opened his mouth, no sound came out, and he could only helplessly hiss. His entire body burned with pain. Only after an unknown length of time had passed within the dream did the sound of a stone door opening come from outside the dungeon. Footsteps neither fast nor slow steadily approached him, then the shadow of a person cast on the floor before him. On the ink-black hem were embroidered exquisite motifs in silver thread. From that person came an ice-cold pressure, more stifling than the dungeon's airless darkness. Shen Qingqiu could not clearly see the person's face, but he knew very well who the person was. Meng Mo truly deserved to be a legendary figure among demons. The dream realm was really far too realistic. Even the damp odor of decay seemed to linger in his nose, nauseating him. Shen Qingqiu managed to keep sitting for a while, then rolled off the bed and began to vomit. Ding dong! Now, of all fucking times, a system notification sprang up. Congratulations on completing the scenario, Meng Mo's Barrier. The system awards you 500 satisfaction points. Please continue working hard. Shen Qingqiu made a stop gesture and still had enough in him to try settling debts. Let's have a proper discussion. When you threatened to deduct satisfaction points, it wasn't this amount, right? Why not also set it at 500? Are large punishments and small rewards really fair? And I went through an extra scenario of the dream within the dream. Why didn't you calculate extra points for me? System? System, don't you play dead. Let's sign a new contract. At this moment, someone slammed open the bamboo house's door and rushed in like a gust of wind. Shizun! He knew who it was from just the sound. Shen Qingqiu miserably rolled his eyes. He really didn't want to see this face right now. Okay, so just to stop real quick and help explain, the dream within a dream that he experienced while Luo Binghe was talking with Ghost Guy, he experienced what he fears the most, which is the outcome of the original book, where the original Binghe tortures him. So that's why right now he's like, he doesn't want to see Binghe because he's afraid one day Binghe is going to grow up and torture him. How can he not see? How can he not see? It's never going to happen. Luo Binghe had already thrown himself to his side, overflowing with anxiety as he asked, Shizun, how are you? Do you feel unwell anywhere? Truthfully, not too terrible. If you could stay a bit further away, I'd feel even better. Shen Qingqiu averted his face, and with unyielding strength and poise, stood by himself. Everything is well with this master. Originally, Luo Binghe had wanted to help him up, yet his hand had been reflexively shoved away. He could not help but freeze. Shen Qingqiu didn't notice these small shifts of emotion with him, and tidied his clothes, verifying to himself that even with only an inner robe on, his image remained spotless, and asked, "Did that Meng Mo trouble you further afterwards?" Trouble my ass. Ming Mo couldn't lick Luo Binghe's shoes in time. Shen Qingqiu was asking despite knowing. Luo Binghe hesitated for a while, then replied, "The demon elder's spiritual strength seemed insufficient, and afterwards this disciple was expelled from the dream realm. Shizun, did you encounter anything inside the dream within a dream?" Shen Qingqiu boasted shamelessly. "Even if I did encounter something, could this master not handle it?" Of course he couldn't handle it. Even now, the shadow of being a human stick remained. With Luo Binghe so close to him, his entire body was tingling, and he couldn't stop averting his gaze while suppressing his fear. Unsure of the reason, Luo Binghe only saw that his expression was odd, gaze no longer calmly looking straight at him like in the past, and was both fretful and anxious within his heart. Luckily, Shen Qingqiu adjusted his attitude extremely quickly, remembering he was a teacher and what he should do at this time. The next instant, he reached out and grabbed Luo Binghe's wrist, saying firmly, "Being invaded by a demon is no joke. This master will examine you for a while. We cannot be too lenient." His wrist in a grasp, Luo Binghe obediently said, "Yes." His heart had just been able to rest a little, but now it was suspended once more. On the off chance Shen Qingqiu uncovered Meng Mo and exposed the peculiarity within his body afterward. But though Shen Qingqiu examined him diligently for a while, he didn't detect anything peculiar. Of course he didn't detect anything. Meng Mo had several hundred years' worth of skill and experience. His celebrated reputation wasn't inflated in the slightest. But Shen Qingqiu had to go through the motions. His examination fruitless, he still repeatedly urged Luo Binghe to visit Shankao Peak and Chongding Peak tomorrow, and let other people take a look, and to absolutely say something if an issue came up. Yet Luo Binghe had no intention of leaving, and with the appearance of someone full of worries, started and stopped speaking several times before asking, "Shizun, demons, are they all wicked beyond redemption, to be exterminated down to the last?" Upon hearing this question, Shen Qingqiu did not reply right away. He stood in place, indeed finding it hard to answer. Seeing how Luo Binghe had frozen in place, forcibly keeping calm while also somewhat anticipating his answer, Shen Qingqiu slowly said, "Humans can be good or bad, so naturally demons too can be good or evil. We always see demons victimizing people, but that doesn't mean cases where humans harm innocent demons never happens. Don't put too much weight on race." This was the first time Luo Binghe had heard a teacher express this kind of opinion. He listened in a daze, heart thumping wildly. "Shizun means, even if one is closely connected to demons, it doesn't mean they're intolerable to the heavens, is that right?" Shen Qingqiu countered with his own question. "How can you claim they're intolerable to the heavens? If they're intolerable, why let them exist? Whether they're tolerated or not, who has the authority to say?" With this chain of counter questions, Luo Binghe's eyes gradually lit up. There was a faint sense of burning passion. Finally, Shen Qingqiu said, "Luo Binghe, the words this master tells you henceforth you may simply ignore after listening. But what I've told you here today you must remember firmly. In this world there is nothing intolerable to the heavens. This is true for all races as it's true for humans." At this time, though Luo Binghe's heart faced the righteous path, he was not a small-minded person. In any case, since this could not be removed, why not put it to good use? He absolutely had to become stronger. Stronger until he would never be powerless. Stronger until he could protect Shizun from anyone's hands. Seeing how his eyes were dazzling bright, Shen Qingqiu did not know that within his heart his thoughts were a jumbled mess. His advice this time wasn't purely because he'd developed an addiction to being a sage guiding the protagonist's life journey. Though this was a universal concept older than time itself and had been recycled for many decades by the historical, wuxia, and xianxia genres without the slightest hint of progress, in this world of ocean-deep hatred between humans and demons who were unable to coexist and had undergone countless great wars in the past to present, it became extremely unconventional to the point of risking the world's condemnation. As someone of mixed lineage, it was extremely difficult for Luo Binghe to not be impacted by these notions. Since the greater half of his life had been rough and full of misfortunes, he'd even had despairing thoughts that perhaps the world and the heavens found his existence intolerable, that he should never have been born. Shen Qingqiu hoped from this point forth these words could sow a seed within his heart, open up his viewpoint, that in the future, when facing the truth, he could remain optimistic and not take the attacks on his lineage to heart. Perhaps his behavior would not become so extreme, only thinking of revenge on society. Even if someday in the future, he would have to face a Shen Qingqiu who would kick him down into the endless abyss, he had to understand this was not his fault. If such was possible, when the scenario arrived, and if that time the system forced him to say lines like, "Humans and demons cannot coexist, their hatred is ocean deep and cannot be overcome, you fucker hurry up and die," sending his entire self flying along with his face, there was nothing he could do. Now that the atmosphere had changed, Shen Qingqiu felt he'd gone overboard with his act of coolness and with his phobia of embarrassment about to erupt. He coughed once. That said, demons are naturally abundant in spiritual strength, far more than humans. If their strength could be used for good and belong to the righteous path for the common people, then how is that not a good thing? Demons had excellent talent for cultivation, and absolutely crushed the human realm there. As their races were different, their energy systems were also different. Humans relied on spiritual qi, demons on demonic qi. Shen Qingqiu reckoned the two were about the same, with only the color and name being different. Who knew if it was because the demon realm had good feng shui or what? But the vast majority of demons were both brimming with demonic qi. At age 3, they could rip apart a human with their bare hands. At age 8, they could split mountains and crack stone. This was a bit of an exaggeration. However, the truth was, many humans had mediocre aptitude, even after cultivating for several decades, could only achieve the level of a small demon infant. Even more humans were like a dried-out pond, their spiritual strength practically a perfect egg of 0. These humans were often said to be lacking spiritual roots, or lacking any lot for immortality. It couldn't get worse than that. If it weren't for the humans' comparative love of propagating, with demon numbers being scarce, the human realm would long have been colonized by demons, so they were just taking advantage of how strict demon family planning was. After being tormented on this world-shaking journey, Shen Qingqiu had not slept the entire night, and 2 dark bags had already appeared. He waved his hand. "It's very late at night. If there's nothing else, then quickly go and rest." Luo Binghe obediently asked to be excused, but he hadn't walked out far when he heard Shen Qingqiu call from behind, "Come back." Donpot says, "You fucker hurry up and die," is what I yell at every Bloodborne boss. That sounds about right. Alright, we'll do one more chapter. We got like 15 minutes. A little bit of my juice. I'm getting hungry. Alright. Chapter 20. Arduous Task. He immediately turned back. "Does Shizun have any other instructions?" Shen Qingqiu said, "The dorms are that way. Why are you walking in the other direction?" The disciples' bamboo houses and the woodshed were both a left turn out the door, yet Luo Binghe had turned to the right. Okay, and Kalime says, so Binghe inherited the horny from his mom, and okay, so his dad is a demon and his mom is a human, and if the humans are the more, horny type, then yeah, I guess his mom was horny on me. That's great. Hey, Katsuki. Am I streaming a game today? Yes. Don't know which yet or what. We'll discuss it at the end of the read. Let's see here. Luo Binghe said, "This disciple wants to go to the kitchen and prepare tomorrow's breakfast for Shizun." Shen Qingqiu was in a bind. He really wanted to eat Luo Binghe's breakfast, but to have a child cook for him instead of sleeping so late at night? Doesn't it sound like Cinderella and her stepmother? Either way, it sounds inhuman. In the end, his conscience won over his stomach. He coughed. Nonsense. It's the middle of the night. What is there to cook? Go back and sleep. Luo Binghe knew he was worried about him not resting enough and agreed with a smile, but he still planned to sneak off to the kitchen to work later. Shen Qingqiu wanted to ask him if he was still sleeping in the woodshed, but thinking after it a moment, youths still had their dignity. Asking outright would be embarrassing. Moreover, even if he let Luo Binghe sleep in the disciples' dorms, the others would still take Mingfan's lead and bully him, steal his blankets and hide his shoes or whatnot, the poor thing. Shen Qingqiu said, "Tomorrow, pack your things and come here." At first, Luo Binghe did not understand what he meant. "Shizun?" Shen Qingqiu said, "There's a side room outside the bamboo house. Starting tomorrow, you can move there." If he lived a little closer, in the future, making breakfast and cleaning up around the house would be easier. Shen Qingqiu's adaptability was always as great as a record-breaking dick. Apparently this is a Chinese phrase. What a phrase. I love it. So basically his adaptability is so fantastic that it's as great as a giant dick. Just a moment ago, he couldn't even look Luo Binghe in the face, but now he even dared to scheme about making the great protagonist wait on him hand and foot, serve his tea, carry his water, wash his clothes, and fold his blankets. Being in the middle of fantasizing, he'd not noticed the other's reaction. Suddenly, Luo Binghe pounced on him like a tiger, grabbing him in a tight embrace. Caught off guard, Shen Qingqiu first jumped in surprise, then his face reddened. In his lifetime, someone finally gave him a bear hug, and it wasn't a warm and gentle jade-skinned girl, but a youth brimming with awesomeness. Overflowing with happiness, Luo Binghe hugged him around the neck and refused to let go, calling in his ear over and over, "Shizun! Shizun!" Shen Qingqiu didn't know where to put his hands. After floundering for a while, he placed them on Luo Binghe's head and stroked his hair. "All right, you've called me and hugged me, made such a racket, and you aren't even embarrassed. You're already this big, it's not like you're a 10-year-old child. How does this look to you?" Originally, Luo Binghe hadn't thought about it much. Having it put that way, he suddenly grew ashamed. If he'd not been overwhelmed by a surge of joy, he would never dare treat his normally aloof and remote Shizun like this. Though reluctant, he hurried to peel himself from Shen Qingqiu's body, his whole face red. Yes, this disciple is overstepped." When it came to asking for hugs, children under the age of 10, it was moe. But the 15-year-old Luo Binghe, it was still moe. Okay, moe is, it's a borrowed word from Japanese, slang for adorable. In other words, he's saying, it's cute on little kids, and it's cute when Luo Binghe does it too. With a handsome little sprout's fresh and tender face, anything you do would be moe. Luo Binghe floundered for a while, at first a little flustered, but then he suddenly noticed that Shen Qingqiu's complexion didn't look very good. Even though he had the immortal body of a cultivator, there were old injuries and poison, and then, because of Luo Binghe, he'd been dragged into Meng Mo's dream realm. He hadn't rested properly and was at his limit, so of course he looked a bit haggard. Luo Binghe didn't dare interfere with Shen Qingqiu's rest any longer, and reluctantly said his goodbyes. Still, he didn't return to the woodshed, and this time made sure to take a detour before going to the kitchen. He promised himself, for the next long while, he must carefully watch over Shizun's diet and recuperation. As soon as Luo Binghe stepped out of the room, a notification from the system arrived. Protagonist satisfaction points, plus 50. Shen Qingqiu was mystified. Why did they add another 50? Was it system lag? Or did the system discover it's conscious and felt it gave me too little before? Whatever, he was exhausted, so what if points were added? Anyway, there was no way his points had been increased because of a single hug. The next day, Shen Qingqiu hadn't slept his fill before the fragrant why does my mouth want to trip up today? Before the fragrant, wafting scent of fish and rice tempted him awake. Outside the bamboo house, Luo Binghe had long prepared a meal with utmost care. The scent drew in countless Qingjing Peak disciples used to eating bland food. They hid off to the side, snooping. Enraged, Mingfan and the others chewed their sleeve hems while watching, especially when they saw Shen Qingqiu sit at the table affectionately singing praises about Luo Binghe's handiwork and efforts. With the two smiling at each other joyously, their grief and resentment reached its peak. Too shameless, using these wicked, harmonious schemes and unorthodox methods to curry Shizun's favor. And then, that evening, when Luo Binghe moved his things into the side room of Shen Qingqiu's house, like lightning from the clear skies, it wiped out all the Qingjing Peak disciples who used to bully Luo Binghe, leaving their corpses scattered all over the field. Though the words were, moved his things, in truth, it was only Luo Binghe himself, because from the beginning, he really didn't have anything in the woodshed. A pillow? A bundle of straw from the woodshed was enough to rest his head. Blankets? His outer robes were enough for him. And of course, Shen Qingqiu would have prepared those for him already. Shen Qingqiu had always thought that Luo Binghe's life really was too miserable, a textbook case of child abuse. Kangchong Mountain Sect was one of the major sects of the cultivation world. How could people's hearts be this dark? How could their resources be so lacking? That night, Luo Binghe laid on a normal bed for the first time in his life. Before, he had laid in a wooden basin floating on the icy river, had slept on the damp and cold ground, noisy streets, had even laid in mountain caves while roughing it out in the wild. It had become normal. On the contrary, now that he was sleeping on soft and tidy bamboo bed, his entire body felt light and floaty, like none of this was real. Especially when he thought of Shen Qingqiu sleeping in the main room just a wall away from him. This night, perhaps because he had too much on his mind, Meng Mo did not appear in his dream realm. Luo Binghe remained completely composed and waited. Sure enough, a few days later, Meng Mo appeared once more. This time, Meng Mo did not set up some mysterious barrier, having no intention to hide from the beginning. Instead, he appeared directly in Luo Binghe's dream, though he did so in the form of a cloud of black mist. This cloud of black mist expanded and contracted before Luo Binghe's eyes, endlessly transforming, and the aged voice sounded out from its midst. "Boy, what have you decided in these 3 days?" Luo Binghe replied with a question. "Would Senior Meng Mo not know what I've decided?" Meng Mo chuckled. "You've chosen a path you will definitely not regret. Boy, remember this day. Today is the beginning of your meteoric rise." What youth didn't have dreams of meteoric success? His words were full of grand heroic spirit, but Luo Binghe was not moved. He only cupped his fist and bowed, then said, "This junior has one more request." "What is it? Get it all out. Hurry up and finish so you can finally become my apprentice." Meng Mo urged him on, not knowing he was being far too optimistic. Luo Binghe said, "What this junior wanted to speak about is precisely this. My Shizun treats me with the utmost kindness. I really cannot apprentice under another without his permission." Before he could finish, Meng Mo said at the end of his patience, "Fine, fine, fine. This elder won't demand the titles of master and apprentice. Is that enough?" Was there any extraordinary master getting a deal worse than him? Falling over himself to teach someone his techniques, yet he wouldn't even get to hear that person call him Shifu. What difference was there between him and a bitterly suffering and absolutely devoted concubine who still couldn't gain any status? Luo Binghe smiled. Then many thanks to Senior. He was not at all willing to call anyone other than Shen Qingqiu Shizun. Watching him, if Meng Mo had had a physical body, his nose would have gone crooked in rage. This Luo Binghe, all cute and obedient in front of his Shizun, just like a little white lotus. So then why was he so hard to deal with before other people? Two completely different faces, practically a different person. This elder is going to die of rage. Time flew like an arrow, the sun and moon like a weaver's shuttle. Shen Qingqiu really didn't want to use this worn-out saying, but other than that, he really couldn't find a better phrasing. Every day on Qingjing Peak, he would play Okay, this is one word I need to look up again, because I keep not saying it properly. How do you pronounce it? It's the instrument. I know Q's are C's, but I don't know if it's Guqin. Is it Guqin? Or is it Guqin? I don't know. I will call it Guqin for now, and I'll double check it later. He would play his instrument, read books, write calligraphy, paint paintings, practice his cultivation, occasionally nitpick Luo Binghe's food, occasionally bicker or spar with Yu Qingge, and report on his work to Yu Qingyuan. Yu Qingyuan from time to time. The days flew by, perfectly accomplishing his life goal of idling his life away, enjoying his years. Until the Immortal Alliance Conference finally arrived. In the end, the day really did arrive. His days had been too carefree. Shen Qingqiu had almost forgotten about the first major climax of the novel. Guqian? So it is Guqian. Okay. Thank you, Ankalime. First major. The first step of Luo Binghe cheating his way to the top, of marrying all the dream women, as well as his first step to his blackening, never again to be washed clean. And he'd managed to forget it! So when he received the gilded invitation, Shen Qingqiu stared at it in shock for a long time. The Immortal Alliance Conference was Proud Immortal Demon Way's first major climax. At the same time, it was an important turning point of the novel. The Immortal Alliance Conference was held once every 4 years, and was an excellent opportunity to pick out new talent and establish one's reputation. Each time, due to the major sect leaders' discussions, the exact structure of the proceedings, there would definitely be a top rankers list. No matter if you came from a prestigious sect or from the poorest parts of the Jianghu. That's a new one. I need to start creating like a list of, new words to look up. As long as your performance in the conference was outstanding, your name would be listed on the gold-inscribed tablet, and you'd gain fame across the land. Before this, Proud Immortal Demon Way's performance was always lukewarm, but once the Immortal Alliance Conference arc came out, the reviews, comments, subscriptions, and tips soared into the heavens. It wasn't only because, from that point forward, Great Master Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky abandoned his already minimal moral principles and poured forth women one after the next with large sections of titillating descriptions and blush-inducing, barely legal passages emerging one after another. There was another important reason, and it was the main reason that had first drawn Shen Qingqiu to follow the novel until the end. The demonic beasts. The reason Great Master Airplane Shooting Towards the Sky, as an author who hadn't even properly researched cultivation settings, was often confused whether characters were at the foundation establishment or nascent soul stages, rarely received Sukomi at this point, was because this was not the selling point of his novel. I am going to Google this. This seems like another borrowed Japanese word. It is. It's a funny man or a comic. Oh, it's one of it's the straight man in a comedy duo. So Sukomi is, this is meaning, I'm not sure what this means in its usage here. The word, it basically means he's the straight man in a comedy duo. The way it's being used in this sentence, I don't understand. But basically, I guess they're saying his book, became well known for the monster fighting. Rather than being called a cultivation novel, Proud Immortal Demon Way might as well be called a monster fighting novel. The fighting component well outweighed the cultivation component. As a cultivation novel, it was out and out filled with landmines, but as a monster handbook, it was pretty entertaining. That is to say, very soon, Shen Qingqiu would directly face those savage monsters of all shapes and sizes, as described in the book. And more importantly, very soon, it would be time for him to personally and mercilessly strike Luo Binghe with his demonic heritage revealed into the endless abyss. The gears of fate, the plot, have already started to turn. Dun 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 dun! Oh man, we're coming to the part where the story is gonna really, start to hurt. If you thought it hurt already, just wait. Just wait. I am actually gonna check real quick. We are reading, the translation done by Felicity on Tumblr. Personally, I just think it's a little easier to parse. Looks like that she has done 52 chapters and one of the extras, which means if the main storyline is 82 chapters, there's 30 still left to be done. I'm hoping we don't catch up too quickly, but we may come to the point where we have to wait on updates to read it. But that's fine. We'll worry about that in the future. Thanks for listening. Friday, we'll be finishing the Silmarillion and then figuring out what we're going to read next. Then this weekend will be The Ring, like last weekend. Tonight, I'll play something horror. Sorry I didn't stream yesterday. I went to visit some family, friends, good close friends, and I ended up staying later than I had planned, but it'd been a while since I saw them, so I enjoyed chilling. And so today, we will stream something spooky. It's going to be just computer games for a little while, because my, capture card's being replaced, having some issues there, but we're figuring that out. One of the extras takes place chronologically now. Maybe you could read it. We'll definitely read some of the extras. I love the ones about, oh, well, that's a spoiler. I won't say that. The extras are really good. I haven't read them all, but the ones I've read are really fun. We'll definitely read those. I don't know one of them's so one of them is in a specific point of the story. I'll have to look them up and see what's up with that. Because certain people have translated different things. I know the extras have been translated by a bunch of different people. But I think I really like this person's translation best. I originally read it with the other one, and it was good. It was good, but I think this one, I don't know, I've enjoyed it a little more. It feels like it's a little more clearly translated, though obviously there have been some moments that I've gotten confused. Oh, there's a puberty extra? Oh, no! Oh, no! I did not know that. I'll have to look that one up. Oh, man. That sounds amazing. We will definitely have to work the extras in at some point. Thanks for listening. If you like what I do and you want to support it, links are in the description. You can get bonuses like downloading my readings as MP3s, downloading my essay videos for watching offline, extra videos that nobody else gets to see, voting on what I read and what we play, all kinds of stuff. Eventually, you know, if we come to the end of this for a little while, I'm going to keep reading web novels. I know I've had multiple requests for Modao Zushi, so that will probably be the next one. Heaven Official Blessing is going to go on forever, so I don't know what I will finish. That's like 400 chapters or something. It's probably not that long, but it's long. But I really enjoy the web novels and stuff, and there's quite a few I've read that I'd like to share and I think are really great. So yeah, I'm going to rest my voice, do some things, and then we'll stream later this evening. So yeah, thanks again. And thanks to all of our members like Nkali May, Jeff, Daniel, Delvin, Phil. Y'all are amazing and keep the channel running. Alexis, you're all great. I love you so much. Thank you for the support. And check the description if you would like to also support the channel. Join the Discord if you want to watch the shows with us. I don't know when we're going to do it, but we got to finish Untamed, got to finish Scumbag System, and then start Heaven Official's Blessing anime. There's 4 episodes now. I'm so excited. Maybe this Saturday? I don't know. We'll figure it out. See you next time. Bye.